Hey guys. Welcome to the part 66. Sorry I haven't made it lately because I was pretty busy with some stuff. I had to go to the store, all that crap. I had to get some for the store and it was a long trip and I had to go somewhere. I had to go somewhere for my uh I had to go somewhere for um I have an announcement. I think I'm getting a doctor's appointment on probably I don't know, probably this week or probably this month or April. I'm not really sure. But my mom's gonna make an appointment to see a doctor. The last time I went to the doctor was at January 2020, and I think it was January or February. I'm not really sure, but I should be able to get my checkup pretty so often, once a year, um, unless something's wrong with you. Um, Okay, so let's start with Betty Aguilar. So what is your name? Betty Aguilar. Betty Tempest it's Betty Aguilar now. Okay, so just checking my videos. Can you remember any major historical moments? I don't know. I just always had so much fun that I didn't take anything very serious. But I did graduate. I was barely 16, and I remember I had an elderly teacher she was advanced typing. I had taken a lot of business courses too, and she called me that summer because she said that I got free leads for a job for you. Well, she called me back and she said nobody would hire anybody who's only 16, so I couldn't get a job. So I painted my dad's barn and the corn crib and a few other things that summer. And then she suggested, and I didn't even know that you could even go back to school. She said, "Why don't you go back to school?" And I said, "How could I?" And she said, "Well, you can." And so I think it was $35 for a whole year. And I took classes that I haven't taken before that I wanted to take. Plus, I worked for the high school principal. I helped in there and out and in and out. It's also the junior high. There was a junior high place across the street, and I did things over there too. Plus, I also worked in the office of the counselor in the high school, doing things like bookwork and stuff. But I did take courses. Plus, I was still in capella choir man when Mr. Chaffin came and started it. He wanted to know, and he said, "What are you in alto or soprano?" And I said, "Well, both." And he said, "Well, I need you to take the test." And I said, "Oh, I don't want to sing a test." And he said, "Well, you have to." So I did, and it really wasn't alto. But he was a great teacher, and he's the one that started it. So the whole time he was here, and he was in the acapella choir. And I think even probably that year too. There's a lot I don't remember. But I always had that ball. We just always had a lot of fun. We did it everywhere. We had a lot of good memories, and we had a lot of fun. And we gave programs that had some fun in them too. But Mr. Chaffin later died of, I forgot what he had. I think he had cancer, and he was in a nursing home away on the south side of the state. So after I was married to my husband and I drove down there to see him, he was such a person that encouraged everybody. He would go to meetings and encourage people to who had the same thing he had. And then he later passed on, and he wasn't very old, but he was the one that really started the Capilla Choir. That was probably in the 4 years before that. So what else were you involved in? Like, were there any sports or clubs or anything? Okay, so in part 67, I'll be reading Lynn Montgomery. Repeat, Lynn Montgomery, class of 1968. So what else you were involved in? The interviewer asks. Sports? No, Lee lived in the country 10 miles out and it didn't have any transportation to do anything. My brothers wanted to play football, but it's a long walk, 10 miles home. But I just did stuff in grade school. I was on a boys team because they didn't have enough boys, and that's all we did was play softball because we had one thing to play with every time all day long where we were playing. And so by the time we got through, some of the several girls in the other places like us that were on the boys team because that's all we did was play recess. What we had to do was we rode the bus with the grade school children. They pick up the high school in the grade school. Then they took us to the grade school, and then they had to get out to get on a bus to go ride 10 miles into high school, and then every evening. Pardon me. And then we had to go to then we had to go to the bus and go ride 10 miles into high school, and then every evening load up to 10 miles, and they were all waiting on us, but then again, they were all playing ball, and everyone got to be good ball players. And there was another girl, and she graduated too. What's her maiden name? Dicky. Annie Dicky Jackus. Oh, I know she's not well now, but she was like me. She was a farm girl and it talked kind of like a cowboy. And we were both on a boys' team. She was on hers and I was on mine. But that wasn't a school thing. But that was just a fun thing, really. I wasn't in a high school thing, really. So what was it called? Just Columbus High School? Mm-hmm. That was an old school downtown. The one that I think they turn into something? Into a middle school? What is it now? Central Middle School. What we used to do, we just walk downtown for lunch. Let's go down to what's the one that everybody goes to? They still do Zarahakos. Anyway, then we'd go down and eat. There was a place on that way, and that they had a garden. It was a fancy garden. They had the whole block. So it would, if a door was open, we would stop and sneak in there. Not sneak, but we walked in. We didn't touch anything. We just went to admire things, and then we had to our a lunch. We had our lunch, and we didn't. And then we walked back to school, and I did take swimming lessons, but that's all. Is that all? That's all about all I had time for. There was no other sports really. The girls, I don't think I played any sports. Maybe they did. I don't remember, but we always had to get on the bus, and so we had to go home. No time to practice if we have anything. So how many people were in high school? Search me a lot. I do not remember. I had to look into my book and count them. It was a good size. I remember how much I cried at graduating because I thought I didn't know I was going to be coming back. And I hated to leave school because I loved school and all my friends. I remember standing up front. The tears were just coming. Because it was just our last day, and the choir sang. That was hard to get through. Anyways, but then I got to come back, so that was neat. So most of them are still here. The second time I came back, I think they called me a post grad. I think that I was probably the only person that ever did it. But anyway, it was neat. Do you remember who the principal was? Mr. Wait a minute, boy. I can't remember. You got any names? I could tell you if you name it. Mr. Ernie. Oh, Mr. Mr. Earn. And then we had a lady who was a lady. She was not a principal, but she was the head of the girls. I only skipped school one time, and that was with a friend who skipped often. And she said, "My sister lives right down the street. Just come to go with me." She was older than me, and I went with her. And then on the way back, I met this dean of women, and his school wasn't over. And I thought, oh no, because I was like feeling so guilty. That's the only time I ever skipped school. That was the end of that, and I never went with that girl again because she did it all the time. So, can you talk about some of your favorite classes? Well, I had more fun in all the classes that we learned to cook and sew and stuff. and we were supposed to in sewing we were supposed to make a dress and something else in one semester. We just cut up so much and we never got to it until the last couple of weeks, and we just sewed like crazy, but we got them done. But we were always too busy having fun. We were just giggling and carrying on, and our teacher would just get to kind of put out with us. The one of my big experiences with them, they had a national home, etc. group come here, and they wanted us to be that's when the big church was built, because it has been built. They wanted to take the tour to be a tour guide. They took us to the guide and over and took us through there. It is a big place, you know where I mean, the big one. And here I'm used to a little country church, and I thought I had underwill that they all came. That there were hundreds of them that came, and none of them knew. I didn't know either. We had to be rescued because that we but we couldn't find our way out of this church. So this was the end of my guiding. I will never do that again. Who are your favorite teachers? I had a lot of them. I really had good teachers. I didn't have anybody in a particular that I just thought was the greatest. I took a lot of typing and I took a lot of business stuff, but had different teachers and searched me that I can't remember their names. But well, the teacher, I guess you'd call the choir director, wouldn't you? He was one of my favorite, Mr. The one that I was telling you about that started the choir, the cappella choir. He was the great teacher. We had to go over that. We had to walk out the building, go down the street, and to another building to practice every day. And I'm talking about the old school. But on the way, there was a restaurant, but nobody stopped there. We just kept going. It was just a regular class, but at the same time, so we had to get back to the big building. But I guess what they've done, I don't know if they haven't destroyed that building. I don't think. I think it turned into something else. So what did people wear? Like, how did they dress? Well, very ordinary in dresses. I mean, the girls, they never wore pants or anything to church. They didn't do that in those days. They dressed in skirts and blouses, and hey, weren't long. And they were just regular things. But then they, later got long. So anyway, it was very comfortable, modest, and it was modest because that was important, and the girls really abided to that. So that was by neat. That was pretty neat that we had loads of kids from the country out in the country, and we had a lot of city kids. We had a big mixture of things, but a lot of because we were 10 miles out and on the farms, and a lot of farm kids, and the farm boys, farm girls, the whole business. So we still mix and what with the kind of sometimes the city kids would stay together more than the country kids did. But then as time went on there was more of the friendship, After you get to know each other, hey, you're not so different after all. Yeah, but I milk cows. So why did you know why did you like North very much? I loved school. I really did. I always had like school from the first grade and on, and we had to skip grades because I was in third grade. Because we were in first, second, and third grade all in one little room in a country school. And then that's the next year's. Here's a whole bunch of kids coming, first graders. So they said some of you are going to have to skip third grade and go to fourth grade to be a different teacher in a different room. And there were six of us that the grades were a little better than the others. So they skipped six of us of that group. They were about 10 or 12, and then we got to stay there because that's all the room they needed. But we had to go to skip through a grade and stay in fourth grade with the man teacher. We always just had a woman teacher, that was difficult because we had her for free 2.5 years. But anyway, it was all worked out because we all graduated a year early. Just those six, because we had to stay in that group that we got skipped to, which was fourth grade instead of third. It was right at the beginning of the school they have to do that. And we had a country school with the outside johns and one water fountain. And you know what that was? That was it. Did you have to do like a senior project? I don't think so. Just getting through making the last garment was something. I think we did our last two garments, that should have taken the whole semester, but we were just busy yapping and talking, having a good time, and we didn't do yet. We didn't work until the last couple of weeks, and then we really got it done. But we were having a lot of fun. That was my fun, I guess, my goal. Not really, but that was my personality. That I met people just like me, so we got along very well. So where did people go to like hang out outside of school? Well, really, like I said, most of the kids, we had a lot of farm kids, so they all had to get on the buses. We had many buses that picked up everybody out in front every evening, every morning and every evening. So they had to go to home because it's a long walk, and when it's 10 miles, or what ours was 10 miles. So, but a lot of them even live at farther than that. They came to all directions south, east, north, and west. Ours was east, but now our city kids, I don't know what they did because we didn't stay around. We had to go right out of the last class and get on the bus. We didn't get to fiddle around, but we had to go to back to school in the public back to the grade schools. Get out of that bus, get on the other bus, and go home with the young kids. So that was everybody's bus. They didn't have near as many buses as they do now. So when you hear about this going on, what made you want to come in back? I didn't even know it. She just signed me up because I lived way up by Indianapolis, between Indianapolis and Greenfield. I didn't know anything about it, and she told me that she signed up to me to something. I said, "What do you mean?" So that's why I didn't know anything about it, but I would. I thought I would maybe be. I was hoping I'd get to see some of our friends from the past, but apparently we're not. But so anywhere, I guess if we just could have a reunion, that would be great. But once in a while, we have to have reunions. I haven't been to one for a while, so I used to always come down to go up to reunions, class reunions. It wasn't a whole class; it was smaller groups. So, do you want to like to show anything from our yearbooks? Is there anything that sticks out to you? These are something else. Did you know who huge Newsom is? He was a hero. He was a city boy and quite a basketball player. I'm sure there probably is still crazy about basketball around here. I used to come home for college from for the big games because we would just get on our bus. Our school driver bus was always, we were in another town, but having that, all the, what do you call it? The tournaments. Yeah, anyway, he would park and let us stay on to fourth, then take us home. Then he did that just on his own because nobody had kids, don't have cards, stuff like that. Those were different days, believe me, because nobody, now some of the city kids have had cards because they drove to school. Pardon me. They didn't have transportation, but we did have the bus, and I don't know any of these kids that went into our group that even had a car when they were in high school. So we just did that. We just could we could but we had things locally that we went to church each other. We had 4-H together, and we did things like that, and everybody was farmers. Just about, we used to work on every other's places, and help out with the family and stuff. So it was a different life, that city life. I suppose it's now very different, but it was a good time, like being on a farm. So since there wasn't, it was just like one high school. Were there any like rivals or different places? Yeah, there was just one high school at the time, and I don't know where the other one isn't there at East. Yeah, yeah. But that was quite a few years later, and I don't know when. So there was like Shelbyville, Franklin. I think, like, was there anyone like big sports rivalry? Oh, I know that that's where they went. See, we didn't have a gym, but do you know what they call that place? Ours is a little bitty gym. Honestly, probably twice as big right across from that school. The old school, and that, what did they call that name? It had a name, but it held very few people, and they had a few tournaments there. And then we go to Shelbyville, and they had this great big place, and that's where a big tournaments were. And I know that one time, the reason that I asked about the huge Newsome High School, because there was a city boy, and it's strictly city, what the player he was, and we were in the final game, and it was a big thing. It was right at the last minute, and he made a one shot for 50 feet out. He made it just like that, and it went on, and we won and to got to the state tournament. And so Huge has always been a hero. He just died not very long ago. He was one of my favorite people ever. But we always had a locker next to him and several others. But he was the best player there was because of that. Columbus is always, I suppose, they're still good in basketball, aren't they? Because they weren't good when we were in high school. Because we had people like him. Not too many like him. But anyway, things like that. And a lot of the kids, we went to all the basketball games, like all ball games. And we never could have gone if our bus drivers hadn't offered, hey, I'll take you kids. I'll take you up to the city there, and he'll go wait on us, and then we all go to downtown and buy what's the flower that smells so good. We all go down and buy this very fragrant flower that we had supper and then we go back to the gym. And the place just wrecked all these hundreds and hundreds of little buckets. That was a fun, but it wasn't just good fun. It wasn't yucky. But I don't know how many kids drank and smoked. I suppose some of them did. But we didn't know about it. Life was very different, simpler and easier, really. It was because you had so much home. You had a lot of home activity, and most everybody went to church and things like that. They were trying to behave themselves. I don't remember any murderers or anything really. Now it's a different world, and I don't feel anything. I feel bad about it, but you can't change it. I mean, we can't. It can't. It's a different world, obviously. All right, Lynn Montgomery. I'll be reading you at part 67. All right, let's read the let's read the progressive era, aka the Gilded Age. Who were the progressives? Who were the progressives? What did most progressives share? Like two things. What did they believe? What did they believe caused the problems in American society? And two things. Who should work together to fix problems? What did progressives reject? The, the government and free enterprise. What does laissez faire mean? What does laissez faire want to limit? Creation of corporations. Before corporations, who owned the most business in the market? Why was more money needed for business? Effects for corporations. Companies become blank owned. What is the stock? Who owned parts of companies but had no say in day to day operations? Were fed to legal responsibilities, or etc. Trusts. In a trust, a combination of business are owned by blank. Best example of trust. An example of which type of integration? Why trusts were so bad. Multiple owners enabled them to avoid certain blank designed to prevent blank. Holding companies. A holding company is a parent blank that own blank or blank and other blank. Holding companies limited to power of blank. The purpose of a holding company is to blank substantial. What am I saying? Company is to blank substantial blank substantial blank of other blank throughout the buying and selling a blank. Robert barons in the economy. What kind of influence did the robber barons use to gain their fortunes? Examples list 2. What did robber barons argue against? Said changes in society and the economy would happen. Robber barons in the economy. Fill in the blanks. Blank economy is best supported when blank and blank can produce blank they blank blank they blank blank they blank and without blank and blank. Remember what it is. It's in your notes. Social Darwinism, based on Woe's idea of natural selection, survival of the fittest. What did it say? Used to defend the blank ranking a blank. Advice blank government intervention because it would blank with natural selection among blank. Gospel of wealth. Who came up with the gospel of wealth? What did the gospel of wealth believe? What did the gospel of wealth promote? Who was the first labor union? Timeline. Did they accept all labor groups or just certain ones? Which national holiday did they create? When was the American Federation of Labor founded? Who was their leader? Did the AFL accept all labor groups or just certain ones? Haymarket Riot. Take notes from the video. Free key points. Free words or sentences. Homestead Strike. Let's do the same thing. Muckcrackers. Or muck. Not nutcrackers, but muckrackers? Or muckrackers, okay. What did muckrackers want to expose? Two things. Elections progress. Which act bear direct contributions to federal election campaigns by corporations? Circle it. Tillman or publicity? Which act required congressional candidates to publicly review info about campaigns? Is it Tillman or publicity? In a direct primary, who chooses their candidates? Direct legislation. Public voters could put up a law up for a vote if enough signatures are collected. Is it an initiative, referendum, or recall? The public could reject or approve a law proposed by state legislatures. Initiative, referendum, or recall. Poorly performing elected officials could be removed from the office. Is it one of those things? No, it's one answer. Progressive reforms. What did the Meat Inspection Act do? What did the Pure Food and Drug Act do? What did many progressives blame for social ills? Who did they blame for bringing us to the U.S.? Votes for women. Suffrage equals what? Which amendment said that the right to vote cannot be denied based on your gender? Progressive social reforms. How did progressives help to improve in living conditions? What did progressives do about child labor? Let me know in the comments. This is you guys can answer those questions and you can alright, so Rifle asked, okay, so was added that response on my reading the Will Hobbs Bearstone, and also Rifle said, your voice though, I'm just reading the comments and I mean, what's wrong with my voice? It's just how it sounds, honestly. I mean, like a, like a, I mean, what's wrong? I told him, I asked him, what's wrong with my voice? Like, I mean, I know my voice kind of sounds funny, but um, my voice will definitely change this year. So just to remind you that, because my adulthood is coming soon. 2 more months, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna miss being a kid though, but 2 more months is my adulthood. Can't wait. All right, so which story should I read? Hmm. Which story did I not read yet? I'm gonna read Calculus Stats and Help Sessions. AP Calculus, AP Stats. Help Sessions by Mr. Nowlin, Mr. Spock, or Mr. Schieffer. Please fill out the Google form each week for attendance. If you guys are in calculus, um, you can fill this out. If you're in my school or if you're in a different school, your teacher's gonna look way different than mine. Like your teachers are gonna be way different than mine. Just to remind you that, because I'm in a different school and everybody has different schools. Um, you know how it goes. Because many people have to move schools, and it's a lot of work to make them to go to a new school. It's really hard for them to go. I'm gonna do short term goals. Okay, so somebody said short term goals. By October 15th, I will get all A's in 6 of my classes. I will do this by doing my homework, studying for my tests, and attending class. I will do this by homework for 30 minutes a day. Middle range goals. By September 15th, 2019, I will be good at playing a saxophone. I will be doing this by practicing scales, practice playing songs, and counting. I will do this by practicing my saxophone 30 minutes before school, 20 minutes after school, and 45 minutes on weekends. Long-term goals. By June 2nd, 2022, I will be a valedictorian. I will do this by studying hard, attending class, and doing my homework. I will achieve this by doing homework for an hour by each subject. What is a valedictorian? What is that? What is that, honestly? Okay, so a student typically having a highest academic achievement for this class, who delivers the valedictory at a graduation ceremony. That's what a valedictorian is. Yeah, valedictorian. What does being a valedictorian mean? If you are named valedictorian, it usually means that you have reached the highest level of academic achievement of all the students in your class. At some schools, multiple students are named valedictorians. Valedictory honors are determined by GPA, which may have been measured by differently depending on your high school. So that's what it means. That's what it means to be when you have the highest level of your graduation time. Yeah, like your response was pretty good, man. Okay, or whoever wrote this. I know. I'm gonna try to make more videos pretty often. So, um, I'm gonna read all of them, which is I have not read yet. It'll probably be like probably probably for like probably like more months or probably like months or so. It can take months to do this. All right, this is the second. I'll do the one more of this one. All right, same thing here. You guys know all this. If you guys are with a partner, you can actually do this. You can read all this. I remember showing it to you previously, which was my page, but this time, just like I showed you on my other part. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna read. I don't know how long I'll be recording, but I'm gonna do gonna do a copy of one side of a political party quiz. There are 2 pages. I side with I side with political party quiz. Pre-quiz. Which political party do you feel like your beliefs and ideas with sides with more? Circle 1. Democrat, Republican, and Libertarian. For each question, you will first click on the Learn More tab, read the description of the issue before you answer the question. For further information on the issue, you'll click on See Public Opinion, which will give you the information on where the general public stands on the issue. Once you have read about the issue, you will then answer the question yes or no or other stances. If you click on other stances, it will give you options that are more specific. After you have answered this question, you will go on the left side of the question and indicate how important the issue is to you by moving right radial button to at least, less, somewhat, more, or most. Once you have once you have answered all the questions, you will click on show my results and complete the text below. List the top 3 candidates you agree the most and within indicate the percentage you agree with them on the issues. Candidate 1 or candidate 2 or candidate 3. Scroll down to the candidates you side by the issue. Click on the top two categories of the issues that are most important to you. For example, social, domestic, policy, and education, etc. Read each issue within both categories and provide a candidate you side with and within in your position on the issue. You will also provide on the candidate you disagree with and your position on the issue. First category of issues. Issue 1. Candidate you side with. Their position. Candidate you do not side with. Their position. Same as thing here. Second category. Same thing here, okay? Just like I showed you. Scroll down to your ideology and indicate below where you stand on the ideological scale. Your ideology is post quiz. Are you surprised with how your results came out? Explain. Yes or no? Explain in the space below. Okay? Alright, I'm going to do one more assignment, then I'm going to stop this video right here. I should do like science things. I know, I'll try to get back to it. I'm gonna do the copy of new immigration stations. I gotta be honest with you. Oh, there's some pages. Ellis Island or Angel Island. Take a picture of your QR code with your phone. Read through the information about Ellis Island or Angel Island. Once you are finished, then fill in a Venn diagram below to compare the contrast the information on the page. You can take a picture of a QR code. Okay. 2. Immigration data. Answer questions on your form based on the immigration data table pictured below. U.S. immigration selection countries by decade. I gotta be honest with you on that page. Some of you guys have questions on this, but I thought I'll get over by the next part. So yeah, U.S. immigration or selected countries by decade by Germany or Italy or Ireland or Russian Empire. What do you think that has the most? Let me know in comments. 3. Enclaves and building communities. Jobs drew immigrants to industrialized cities such as New York, Boston, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and San Francisco, facing social and cultural barriers including language or religion. Immigrants often settle in tight-knit neighborhoods and with compromise of members of their own ethnicities. These communities were typically called enclaves. An enclave is an area, often in people of other groups, or often in a city, which if a culturally distant group of people live separately from other people. The Jewish and Italian enclaves Boston of North End area, Little Italy in New York City, Jewish neighborhoods on the Lower East Side of Manhattan or Chicago's West Side, and Chinese neighborhoods in San Francisco are examples of these types of communities. These ethnic enclaves served important needs of newly arrived immigrants who rarely spoke or understood any English. I'm going to read this part and I'm going to stop that video. Residents of such ethnic enclaves not only lived together, but then often worked together as well. But for example, in 1890, so about 90% of the workers constructing canals and other infrastructure for the New York City Public Works Department were Italian immigrants. They worked so hard to get the infrastructure for that new import. Similarly, in Chicago, virtually in all the city's road workers were Italian. The Lower East Side of Manhattan was dotted with sweatshop factories where many Jewish immigrants worked in the garment industry, manufacturing clothing. By 1880, San Francisco was home to more than 7,500 Chinese-run commercial laundries. I'll be reading this part on part 67 repeat. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know and I'll be happy to answer you. I'll be going with the other questions by a copy of a new immigration stations or 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 immigrational questions that you actually have. Some of you guys have any questions about this, but I might get over. Just to let you know, I'll be going over by part 67. Okay. All right. So you guys on part 67, and um, I want to tell you one more thing as well. Um, like like new immigration stations are preceded by many culturalizations, or can be fittable from many found in schools, or can be founding in other ethnic communities, or that residents established their own institutions, or they have like none of them has like people think they have like constitutional rights whenever they are being told to do something. It's not all about that. It's societies that makes them. No, societies are the constitutional rights are actually the constitutional rights that are actually the society group, the society truth of that constitutional. That can be pretty much like bounding boundaries, or boundaries, or laundries. That can be one of those institutions of your own.